On today's video, I'm going to share with you every single statue I've ever owned. That's up next. Hello everyone, it's Chris the Batman Statue Collector, your Dark Knight of Collecting, and welcome back to Brotherhood of the Bat Collectibles. I'm so glad that you're back with us today because we have kind of an interesting statue chat for sure, and I can't wait to get to it. But before we do that, if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button. I really think you're going to enjoy this content. Also hit the like button if you enjoy what you see, and if you want to take it one step further, hit that notification bell. That way you're notified every single time I put out new content. So with all of that said, recently I did a room tour, and I know it took forever for me to get that out to you guys, but I thank you for your patience, and it showcased all of my statues that I have currently, okay? And at the same time, somebody said, hey Chris, why don't you share with us all the statues that you've owned since you've been a kind of a high-end collector, okay? And I thought, okay, that's a great idea. Why not tell you every single statue that I've ever owned? Because good Lord, as I was putting this list together, it is amazing. There are over 40 statues that I no longer have. Over 40! Think about that. That I no longer have, and it just shows you how much my collection has changed. Not even just since I've been the Batman statue collector, but way before that. It's crazy how different my collection was and how different my displays were. I recently posted in the Facebook group as well. I showed off some of my old displays, and just how it's evolved and how it's changed over the years has been pretty shocking. So I wanted to put this list together of all the statues that I've owned, that I no longer own, and it's pretty crazy. Like I said, there's over 40. So again, sit back, relax, because this is going to take a little bit. So I'm going to go through my Star Wars collection first. So I used to collect Star Wars way back in the day. I had life-size props, and I had helmets, and I had a whole bunch of things from like Elusive Concepts, old stuff. I was a big Star Wars collector. And as I got older, that definitely changed. But as I was getting into the statue game, I definitely picked up a few pieces. And so on my list, the first one, and probably my favorite, is the Darth Vader life-size bust from Sideshow Collectibles. This thing was amazing. It was just epic. It was my first life-size bust, and it definitely told a story. I was like, man, this thing has so much impact to it. I really enjoyed having it. And because I had that piece, because Vader and Palpatine are my two favorite Star Wars characters, I knew I had to have that representation. I also thought about getting the Palpatine life-size bust that Sideshow did, but I didn't love it. So instead, I got the Sideshow Collectibles Premium Format Emperor Palpatine. A lot of people don't know about this piece for some reason, but it was a cool piece because he was on the throne. It was just a neat throne piece. I loved it. I thought it looked just like the Emperor, but man, what a cool piece that was in my collection. So I had those two side by side. I was going to only collect the bad guys. Just like I like the villains for Batman, I also like the villains for Star Wars. And my third piece that I had was the Snow Trooper Premium Format. I love Empire Strikes Back. It's my favorite film of the Star Wars movies. And man, I love the Snow Troopers. I thought they looked so cool, and I love that premium format. So about that time, as I was really getting into Star Wars, I was also collecting Marvel as well. In addition to Batman. Sideshow back then didn't have very many Batman pieces yet. I think they only had a couple. So I was interested in collecting the Marvel as well. And I'm going to get to the Marvel here in just one second, but I did want to throw in a couple movie pieces that I also had. I did have the Indiana Jones premium format. It was really cool. It was from the second film. I really liked it. I was definitely at that time collecting movie pieces, Star Wars, movies. I was really interested in collecting those pieces. As I collected those movie pieces though, the likenesses weren't always great. There were things that were off. And so I think that's whenever I started segueing a little bit more toward comics. But in addition to Indiana Jones, I also had the Jack Sparrow premium format, the OG one, which is great. I've actually owned that one twice. And then as they released the second version, I had that one too. And I really liked that one. I didn't love the scale of it. It felt a little bit undersized. But man, both of those statues are really cool. I'm a massive Pirates of the Caribbean fan, so I had to have those statues. I wish that they had made like Davy Jones and Barbossa. I would probably still have them if they did. But again, Jack Sparrow, sticks and stones, love. It just doesn't really fit with the Batman theme. So I had to sell those pieces. So anyway, now I'm going to move back over to Marvel. Okay, so I was definitely collecting a lot of Marvel and Star Wars at the same time. But these are the pieces that I had that were Marvel. I had the Iron Man life-size bust. Okay, this piece was amazing. I absolutely loved it. Again, so I had that one. I had the Vader bust. I was really thinking about collecting these busts because I just felt like they had such a big impact in my collection. But I also wanted to surround them with premium formats. I also had the Iron Man Mark VI, which I really loved. It was a grail piece for a very long time. Just a really special statue. It was actually shipped to me broken and had a whole issue with the seller. He would not refund my money. He would not do anything to help me out, so I took it for a loss, but I was able to kind of glue the fingers. The fingers came off of him, and I was kind of able to glue those back together. But it was a mess at the time. But anyway, I had that Iron Man. I also had this Iron Man right here. This one was from the later movies. It was not my favorite. I was kind of collect all Iron Man for a little bit. I like Iron Man just as much as I like Batman. The same type of character. Uses his money and his wits, his resources in order to fight crime, and so I love Iron Man. So anyway, I had those 3 Iron Man pieces. I also had the OG Captain America premium format from the movie, and I still think it's a great piece. I had this big diorama. I'll include a photo here of it, but I had Captain America, I had Iron Man, I had Hulk, the Hulk Maquette, which is amazing. I actually have owned that twice. I sold it and regretted it, so I bought it again. Then I also had Thor in that display. So I had kind of this little mini set of Avengers, this little diorama, and all of those pieces were really great. And as the collection grew, I also then had the Iron Patriot premium format, not the repainted version, but the red, white, and blue version. I thought it was very good. Some people didn't like it, but I thought it was great. I also had the Black Widow from Gentle Giant, and that's kind of a grail piece to this day. The only thing is it had a clear round disc for a base, so it didn't really match Sideshow's bases at all, but Sideshow never did her as a premium format, at least not in that version. They did an OG one, but I didn't love it. It was kind of her looking over her shoulder, not my favorite. And so I wanted kind of a more modern look, and I got it, and it was amazing statue. I also had the Hulk comic premium format. I only had that for about a week, and once I got that piece, that's when I realized that I needed to do something different. I was stressed out, I was collecting too much, and something had to go. And so that Hulk Maquette, or Hulk premium format, was a really cool piece. It was an exclusive. But as soon as I got it, it didn't even get to the basement. It only made it to the upstairs in my old house, and that's what flipped the switch for me. Great piece though. I also had the Black Widow premium format, the comic book version, the black suit one, and she was beautiful. What a beautiful statue she was. I really liked her, and that's whenever I was kind of at the time thinking, okay, I think I'm going to segue from the movies to the comic book stuff. Because again, the comic book stuff was speaking to me, even though I loved the movies. But again, you can see how much conflict I had. I was always second guessing myself. Then the last Marvel piece that I had was the Red Skull comic book version premium format, and man, I love that thing. It was so cool. Had kind of that Nazi vibe to it. Just looked creepy, and it was so cool. I really liked that piece, and so I was starting to kind of go that comic book piece with Red Skull, and Black Widow, and then adding the Hulk. That's kind of the way I was doing it. I was going to completely replace my diorama, but at the end of the day, I went with Batman. And so now we're going to switch over to Batman, and this list is crazy. How many pieces? I could not believe how many pieces I've had and that I've sold over the years. So we're going to start where it kind of started a little bit for me. I had the OG 1/4 scale Batman, and this was by DC Direct or DC Collectibles, and it was the one where he is coming out of the Batcave. He's got the stalactites, stalagmites, whatever, and it was just a very cool piece. And I remember at the time, I think it cost me like $250, which was insane. I had to like talk my wife down. I'm like, I've never spent anything like that on a collectible before. Holy moly, how times have changed since that moment, because that was a big giant deal in my collecting, to spend that kind of money on a collectible. And obviously it went downhill for me. But that was my first big DC piece. I had some small little busts and things, but that was my first major piece. From there, I also got the DC Direct, DC Collectibles, the half-scale bust. I got the Batman, I got the Joker, and I got Two-Face. Those are still amazing. I absolutely love it. I still have the Batman one currently. I love those busts, and I still think that they hold up to this day. They are mixed media, and they also had a Catwoman and Harley Quinn. I never owned those. I did convert an Emma Frost from Sideshow into a Poison Ivy. I did a custom of her, and I sold it, and I regret it. I wish I would have kept her, and I still might remake her again, because I loved the four of them together. I've bought and sold Batman 3 times now, and I have bought and sold Joker twice. So again, tells you that I love the piece, but it just didn't fit my collection at the time. Obviously my collection has changed a lot over the years, but anyway. So those were kind of the pieces that I started with DC. Alright guys, so now we're going to start getting into some larger scale items, and the first one that comes on my list here is the Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman. A beautiful piece, absolutely fantastic. The sculpt was very good. The face sculpt was close, but it was not perfect. It was not necessarily as advertised, in my opinion. I feel like they could have nailed her likeness a little bit more, but it was still a great piece. And of course I paired her with my Batman 89, my Michael Keaton premium format as well, and I thought that they were really great. I was really hoping that Sideshow though would do a Nicholson, would do a Danny DeVito Penguin. That never happened. Also at that time I was kind of starting to segue into more 1/3 scale pieces, and I love collecting movie pieces, guys. I love it, but I just don't have the space. I don't have the space to do both. At least not like I would like to do it. I would love to have a movie room maybe someday with some of these pieces, but at the end of the day, both of those had to go because I just didn't have the space, but they were both really great. I really liked the stairs. You know, the Captain Morgan poses were getting kind of old at that time, and they still are. But it's hard to capture a figure in motion without doing it, so I get it, but that was just kind of the direction at the time. Okay, so both of those. I also have, I'm going to kind of jump around a little bit here, but I also had the half-scale Ben Affleck Batman from Prime 1 Studio. Absolutely phenomenal piece, but it was too big for my collection. I didn't like the half scales as much as I did the 1/3. I feel like half scales are great, but for me personally, I just feel like they were oversized. Just something about it didn't translate for me. 1/3 is my perfect scale. I also really like 1/4, so I stick with those two primarily. But man, that statue was a beautiful statue, especially under the right lighting. If you were able to capture the shadows, it was perfect. If it was too bright on him though, I didn't like him. It washed him out. But man, what a great piece. And then of course I also had the half-scale Ledger Joker from Prime 1 Studio. At the time, that was a grail piece for me. It's still an awesome piece. The fabric on it was great, the tailoring, the sculpt, of course. Some people don't love the sculpt. I thought it was fine. But at the end of the day, I did replace it with my Queen Studios Joker because I felt like that was a more iconic piece. And it still is, in my opinion. I still feel like it's better than the Prime 1 piece. But man, it was a pleasure and an honor to own that piece. And I'm really glad, though, that it went to a great collector. Same with the Batman. So anyway, I had those two pieces. I also had the Batman vs. Bane Maquette, the diorama, if you will, from Iron Studios. And that piece, it was absolutely phenomenal. I miss that piece to this day. It was a really great piece, but again, I just didn't have room for it. I might have had a room now in my room. It might have been able to fit up on the shelf maybe. But again, it's a scale that I'm not keen to collect. I love it. I love the action, and I'm so glad that I owned it for when I did. But at the end of the day, I have to kind of stick with my scales that I like. But just what a great statue. So now let's talk about a series of Prime 1 ones here. So I had the Prime 1 Batgirl, I had the Prime 1 Robin, and I had the Prime 1 Nightwing. All 1/3 scale, all part of my Arkham line, which you guys know I love. But at the end of the day, I wasn't collecting heroes, and they had to go. I like the villains surrounded by Batman, and that is kind of my theme that I've really narrowed it down to for this space. And so, although I like the good guys, they were my least favorite of the ones I had, and so they had to go. But amazing pieces. They were really amazing. Speaking of good guys, I also had the Prime One Huntress, and beautiful statue. One of the best statues I've ever seen and owned. But she didn't stay in the Batcave long. I got her and I regretted it because, again, it's a great statue, but I just don't have the room for the heroes. It doesn't fit my theme. But I was just so desperate to see her. I wanted to see her in person. I wanted to check it out. And I'm so glad I owned her, even just for a short while, because she was beautiful. Unfortunately, she got damaged in shipping, and so that statue is no more, which does suck. But I'm really glad I owned her because it was just one of the best Prime 1 statues there are. Beautiful statue. I also, for a short time, owned the Prime 1 Batman Beyond piece. I really wanted to see it in person. I traded with another collector, and it was a great trade, and it was a piece that I loved, but I don't have an emotional connection to Batman Beyond, so it didn't stay in the collection very long. But man, what a beautiful piece, and I'm really glad I had the opportunity to review him because it was a great piece. Also, 2 more movie pieces. I had the Prime 1 Harley Quinn, the Margot Robbie Harley Quinn, and also the Prime 1 Leto Joker. Again, at the time I was considering collecting kind of like half of the room movies, half the room Arkham or the back case with my Sideshow stuff. And again, at the end of the day, it just didn't fit my theme anymore of going more toward comics, eliminating the movie pieces, because I at the time I could not own them all. Space is, again, always a collector's nightmare, and it definitely was for me in the old Batcave. Could I have made it work maybe in this cave? Yes. I liked the Margot Robbie way better than the Joker. She's still a beautiful piece. I know a lot of you out there still have her. If I had the opportunity to get her again, I probably wouldn't think about it if the price was right. I really liked the bubblegum portrait. The other ones I didn't love as much. I didn't see her in it as much. I would like to see them make one of her today, because I guarantee it'd probably knock us out of the park. But both those pieces were cool pieces. Let's move on then to the, let's see, I said Batman Beyond. Okay, Sideshow. Let's move back to Sideshow a little bit. I had the original Batman Premium format up until just recently. I did sell him for the newer version. That took a really long time, and it was really difficult to sell. But he's no longer in my collection. But he was one of my first Sideshow pieces, if not maybe the third. I think it was Joker, Poison Ivy, and then him, I think, in that order. But man, what a great piece. And it lasted in my collection for a really long time, but I'm glad it went to a great collector. I also had the Sideshow original Catwoman premium format, the one where she's looking over her shoulder. She was in that black leather, and oh my gosh, what a great piece. But I'm so happy that I have the new piece. I think it's even better. And I really worried about the pleather over time as well. I was worried that it would deteriorate. But anyway, I'm really glad I have the new Catwoman. I think it's phenomenal, and I just love it. All right, now it's time to get back to a few movie pieces. I had the Sideshow Collectibles Dark Knight Joker and Dark Knight Batman statues, both of them, and they were a lot of fun. I'm really glad I own them. Similar bases, action pose. Joker had the flames on it. Not everybody liked that. I didn't really care, but it was a fun piece, and I owned those, though, before I got the half scale from Prime 1. Half scale blew it out of the water. It's still a great piece, and I'm really happy that collectors have that piece. I was really glad to own both of them for maybe a couple of years. But again, as my collection was changing from movies to more comic book, I just didn't have the space for them, and it didn't look good next to the half scale at the time. I tried to pair them up, but man, you cannot do a half scale next to a quarter, especially that quarter, because those movie pieces are smaller scale in my eyes. I don't feel like they're true 1/4. anybody that knows the movie pieces knows what I'm talking about. They are undersized for sure, but they're still great, but it just didn't look good next to the half-scale Ledger Joker. So unfortunately, those pieces had to go. My collection's always changing, ebb and flow. It represents where I'm at now. And at the time, the movie pieces were going out the window, just like they are currently. I have Arkham back here, as you know, my game pieces, but these are more comic booky to me. They're not movie, and I just don't have the space for the movie pieces, so those pieces had to go. Okay, next up this was part of one of my favorite displays that I ever put together, and this was a couple of busts. It was the Hollywood Collectible Group Joker, and also the Sideshow Collectibles Bale Batman, both life-size busts. I had them paired up, very similar like I have my Batman and Joker here. I loved that bust. At the time, it was modeled off of an artist named Bobby C, and he did a lot of silicone-based busts and like fan art pieces. Incredible artist, and he really captured Ledger. I still think it's one of the best sculpts. The Hollywood Collectibles Group one was okay, but it wasn't like the one I wanted. The one I wanted was like $10,000 that he made, and I'm never going to get that piece. But my Queen Studios that I have now is a great alternative to it. But at the time, I had those two. I was really hoping that Sideshow was going to do a life-size bust, and actually there was an image of somebody working at Sideshow that had that bust in the background. So they were going to do a Ledger bust, but they never produced it for whatever reason, maybe rights or likeness or whatever. But anyway, I love that display. And as I moved though, as I changed up into the Batcave upstairs from when I was downstairs, I just didn't have the space, so they had to go. That was a tough decision for me. The Bale Batman bust is okay. It's not the greatest, but they were cool pieces in my collection for sure. I do miss them. I also had the Sideshow Collectibles Batgirl premium format, a great piece. I've owned her. I think I've owned her twice. Sold her and got her again, but again, guess what? She's a good guy. Doesn't fit my collection, so I've got to darn, I gotta keep slapping my wrist here. Chris, quit buying the darn good guys. But she's beautiful. She's one of the best premium formats still to this day, in my opinion. I think she blows the new one out of the water. I just love the OG one. Absolutely beautiful statue. I also had the Sideshow Collectibles purple version of Catwoman. Man, what a gorgeous Catwoman. I actually preferred her better than the black suit one. She has kind of a weird, kind of wonky face a little bit, but her sculpt was so amazing, and it was basically kind of a rehash of the black suit version, but she was fully sculpted with the purple look, and I love it. The only downfall was people would come into my collection and go, "Who's that?" They didn't have any idea who it was, and that bothered me a little bit. Even though I knew who it was, but at the end of the day, I could only have one Catwoman, and I've decided to go with the modern one. So. Beautiful statue. Going back to Prime 1 a little bit, I had the Prime 1 Studio Venom Bane. I have the Mercenary Bane now. I love it, but I do kind of wish that I had Venom back in my current setup. So I'm looking for him at the right price. So even though I have Bane back, I did have the Venom, but I don't have him anymore. So I do miss that one. And I also had the Prime 1 Studio Red Hood. This was a version of Arkham Knight, Red Hood from the game, but I didn't feel like the quality was up to par with the rest of the line. And again, at the end of the day, he's a good guy. He's on Batman's side, so I didn't have room for him. I did a repaint on him, actually, which I think really helped. I used some decoupage and some other techniques, and it really brought the statue to life, in my opinion. And but I didn't end up selling it to a collector that wanted it that way. So I don't know. It was a great statue. I just wish it could have been more. But I think that's my list. I think that's it. I have them all written down right here. But I'm thinking that over 40 statues that I've had in my collection. Since around the time that I was Batman statue collector for the first time, and before I was just Chris the collector. It's amazing to me, again, how much my collection has changed. And I know that your collections out there have changed a lot too. If you go back 10 years, or if you go back 5 years, do you still have the same pieces? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd like to know, do you keep hold of everything you have, or are you more like, okay, I just want to go get what I want at the time? That's where I'm at. I'm like, I want to get the pieces that speak to me, and that are going to fit my collection, fit my theme. Again, I want to buy everything. I want to buy all the Marvel pieces. I want to buy all of the Star Wars pieces. But there's a reason why most of these are gone, and that is because I had to change direction. So half of this list is my Marvel Batman movie pieces. I had to make a choice. And so that's why so many of them are gone. And again, a lot of these are gone from the Batman side of things because they just still don't fit my theme. I don't collect the movie pieces like I did. And I wanted the art that speaks to me in 2020, which is where we are right now. It's amazing to me to go back and look at this list. I couldn't believe it. I figured it was like maybe 15, 20, 40 plus statues. And there's other ones that I haven't even probably listed on this list that happened before I started collecting the higher end stuff. I had a lot of Gentle Giant busts and things like that. Crazy, right? But it's been really fun going down memory lane and checking all these out. But I want to know down, like I said, in the comments down below, do you collect everything? Do you keep hold of everything? Do you just kind of go with the flow? Have you gotten rid of this many statues? How many statues have you guys owned over the years? I'd like to know for sure. I'd love to read those in your comments, in the comments down below, because man, how great is it? I just love it. So I feel like I've been rambling on way too long. So thank you for sticking with me. I really appreciate it. And again, thank you for watching a list of the statues that I've owned. It's crazy. But man, the collection always is evolving, and thank God for that, because I think it makes this channel fresh for one thing, but it makes my collection fresh as well, and that makes it exciting. It's not the same old thing. It's something new and fresh to look at. So definitely, if you're a fan of this channel, count on more new pieces, because there's always going to be stuff new that's coming into the Batcave for sure. As always, guys, I thank you so very much for watching. If you're new here, like I said, please hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, click that notification bell, blah, blah, blah. You guys know the drill by now. I appreciate you. I love you all. I cannot thank you enough for watching this content and being a part of the Brotherhood of the Bat. You mean the world to me. So thank you guys very much. Please like, comment, and subscribe. As always, I'll see you in the Batcave. Bye, everybody. Hey guys, thank you so very much for watching today, and if you're new here, please hit the subscribe button right here on the screen and check out these two awesome videos. I think you're going to love them. And also please join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I would love to have you join in all the fun. Thank you guys so very much for watching. See you in the Batcave.